issues.
Welcome back to the ranch, Discreet Defenders. Today we're going to be testing out some solid copper hollow point projectiles for 38 Special Plus P, and the test gun is going to be the Ruger LCR Copper Cylinder Edition with its 1.9-inch barrel. And the question kind of comes up based on a headline or two that I saw a couple of years ago about how the United States has now almost entirely outsourced its lead bullet production, which in my mind kind of leaves us with copper. Obviously copper is a lot more expensive than lead, so it's not like I'm stockpiling copper. I don't buy it on a regular basis. And yet, around the back of my mind, there's always that question of whether or not we'll be allowed to use lead. Even if it's still legal, it may be slowly squeezed out. We may be squeezed out of the market for lead bullets at some point in the future, you know, depending on how certain elections go. So to that end, today we have 3 rounds lined up to test. The first round that we're going to test is going to be the Underwood 100 grain maximum expansion. And this is what that bullet looks like. It's a wide hollow point cavity, deeply segmented into 4 segments. The next round we're going to test is the Telos by G2 Research. It's a 105 grain projectile, or at least that's what it said on the website. Again, kind of a similar design to that Underwood, but with apparently 6 segments, another wide, deep hollow point cavity. And the last round we're going to test is good old Buffalo Bore, 110 grain. And this is basically, as far as I can tell, a Barnes bullet, kind of reminiscent of Corbon DPX. And that one is kind of the opposite theory. They've gone with a much more conical nose than the other two. So that'll be interesting, especially when we get to the gel, to the ballistic gel portion of the test, to see how those 3 rounds perform and if they're at all similar to each other, and if all 3 are effective out of the 1.9-inch barrel. But first up, we're going to chronograph them. And as indicated, we'll start out with the Underwoods. All right, we'll get about 5 feet back and start off with 5 rounds of that 100 grain maximum expansion by Underwood. Uh, 197 is not correct. Delete that string. Sometimes copper does not register very well on this chronograph. Maybe, I wonder if we get about 7 feet back and get less unburnt powder across the top. Make a difference. 950 feet per second. That is a nice light load, honestly. Not too snappy. 991. 975. And 982. So pretty consistent. I'm not going to bother with a 5th round because that's consistent enough. We'll just take that at 4-shot average of 974 feet per second. So that gets the Max X out of the way. Next, we'll move on to the Telos. All right, get 5 of these guys. 105 grain Telos. Telos? I guess I don't speak Greek very well. For the sake of unburnt powder, let's get back a good 7 feet. 861, 941, 923, 839, 909. Maybe not quite as consistent. Let's review that. At a high of 941 and a low of 839. Quite a spread on that. Average of 894. Not sure what to do with that Telos G2 research. All right, now we'll move on to the Buffalo Bore. The Buffalo Barnes ammunition, I'm not terribly excited about the prospect of having to replace lead with copper if it's going to stay up at $2 a round. I don't think they'd have to do that necessarily. Again, getting back 7 feet. I suppose with my arms extended, it winds up to be about 5 or 6. Now that has a little bit more hurt to it. 1052. 1085. 1100. That's, I gotta say, that is hurting the web of my thumb. 1104. And 1060. So that 110 grain Buffalo Barnes, definitely the most powerful of the three. Let's review that string briefly. A high of 1104, a low of 1052, and a 5-shot average 1080 feet per second from that Buffalo Bore. Boy, that's some good stuff right there. I'd say this is the best of these three, and probably by quite a wide margin. But we'll put that hypothesis to the test with the denim and gel test up next. All right, welcome back, Discreet Defenders. The gel has now been sitting on ice, or in ice water, for 7 hours. But the gel is now cold, 34 degrees. That's where we want it. In addition, it's a tough second melt block. This should be a very legitimate test. Now, I have tested these 3 rounds in the past individually, but I have not tested them in the same gel block head to head. But we got 4 layers of denim. It's a good 18 inches. Good solid 18 inches through the center, just over 18 inches. And 5 inches tall. So this should be a very legitimate test. Again, as with the Chronograph, we're going to start out with the Underwood 100 grain maximum expansion. Move on to the G2 Research Telos, which I believe is 105 grain controlled fragmentation. And then last but not least, most importantly, the Buffalo Barnes. We're going to get in close and position these shots strategically so we can fit all 3 in the block. Underwood 100 grain max expansion. Wow, man. Yep, that's maxed out the expansion, all right. But it has not maxed penetration. That has stopped well short of 12 inches. Next up, the controlled fragmentation Telos. We'll go more toward the, I think I'll put this one in toward the right, and then we'll put the Barnes in toward the center. Yeah. Nice and low, just where I wanted it. Okay, so the Telos also has gotten expansion, and it looks like fragmentation. It's a little bit more penetration even than the maximum expansion. So that's it. They are functioning as they are intended to function so far. Now let us do the Buffalo Barnes and go right between them. Again, very strategically. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Oh, wow. Wow. Flawless expansion. Good penetration. Check that out. Yeah, that Buffalo Barnes has exceeded the 12-inch mark. Let's look at it from the top down. All right. So you see the entrance wounds. There's that Max X, the Underwood maximum expansion. And that makes an immediately surprising entrance wound compared to the other two, compared to the Telos and even the Buffalo Barnes. So then, just there, stopping at the Underwood, which looks like a giant plus sign in the gel at 8 inches. Stopping at 8 inches. The Telos went a little bit deeper. I think that's it right there. It's hard to see it back in there because of the light, the way the light is playing back there toward the back of the gel block. But you can see it. It has shed a petal or two. We'll pull that out and take a look at it. But that has gone almost to the back of the block at 9 inches. There it is. You can pick up that coppery reflection down in there at 9 inches. A little bit over 9 maybe. Almost to the back of that first block. And then the Buffalo Barnes, deep in there, easily 12.5 inches. Very, very, very nice. And very nicely expanded. It has yawed or tumbled or whatever, and inverted so that it's facing base forward more or less, but also very impressive. All right, let's get those three out of there and compare them. That Telos controlled fragmenting has shed 2 petals and or 3. Does it have a total of 5? It's shed at least 3 of these petals. But some of them are just, one's just like 3 inches into the track and the other's about 4. It looks like a total of 5 going on there. All right, let's measure them. Let's measure them up with the calipers. All right, switch on that caliper, and it's already zeroed. Nice and zeroed. All right, obviously, pedals on the Max X, the 8-inch penetrator, coming in at 70. Good grief. I don't know why they have to be so slippery. Coming in at 78 caliber. I mean, it's almost ridiculous. I mean, that's nuts. The Telos, it's really nothing to measure. It just, do you want fragments or do you want a solid bullet? 73, that's still huge, man. Imagine if all those petals stayed attached. That might be a better way to run that round. And then with the Buffalo Barnes, astoundingly well peeled back petals, 6 of them, and 63 caliber. That is a large bullet. Even the narrowest set is not much narrower. 625. Very even construction. Very impressively engineered. I would say that all 3 of these rounds do what they are engineered to do out of the 1.9-inch barrel of the Ruger LCR, which is tiny, which weighs 13 ounces, and it's just fun. Obviously, I prefer the Buffalo Barnes because it has the most horsepower, most foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle, and it's not even a contest on penetration. But if you're looking for fragmentation, the Telos will get it done. And if you're looking for expansion, well, the Underwoods will get it done. But if you're looking for FBI standard 12 inches or greater penetration, Buffalo Barnes is getting it done the right way. This is the one I would defend myself with. Thanks, folks. This is Dave for DDR. I'll see you again at the next test. All 12, no issues.